Okay. Hi everyone, welcome to this episode of Health is Wealth Mastermind. And today we're going to interview Dr. Qian. We'll talk about 3 steps to flawless skin and for busy professionals. So of course, in this group, in this community, we always talk about health is your wealth. And looking after your skin is actually very important, especially there are things that people don't realize or little things that we actually need to do or we don't realize we can do to have a better skin. So before we jump into the content, just let's introduce our guest today. Hi, Dr. Qian. How are you?
Hi, Hannah. I'm good. Thank you for having me today.
No problem. So, of course, I know you are an aesthetic doctor, and then you help people with a better skin. So perhaps you can tell the audience more about your business and how you start your business.
Yeah, sure. So I don't want to be here all day talking about my journey, but basically I've been an NHS doctor for 10 years. Yeah. And so my main background is from a bit of surgery, but mainly emergency medicine. Mm-hmm. And I went into aesthetics 6 years ago, initially just trained in the Botox and filler injections. Mm-hmm. But then I very quickly started training in skincare and skin rejuvenation, because that's what I found that made the biggest difference to people's lives and the biggest boost to their confidence. Yeah. Because just with the injectables alone, it's not a long-term solution. Mm-hmm. And from a medical background, and with kind of the ethical standards that we have, I just felt like if I wasn't treating a problem, if I wasn't fixing a problem, and I was just covering up a problem, it didn't feel right to me. Yeah. So that's why I now emphasize skincare and skin rejuvenation a lot more than injectables, and actually get much better results.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I basically relaunched my business as Skin Aesthetics in January of last year. Mm-hmm. With this new philosophy, and through my previous experience, I've developed a 3-step strategy to help someone achieve as close to flawless skin as possible. Yeah. So the main idea is to help people achieve good skin long term, so that it's something it's manageable, and you don't have to put a lot of time and effort into it, because we're all busy, aren't we? But we want to look good, and that's the key.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in our community, we're all very busy professionals. It can be like time poor. We don't have much time. We don't have the time to spend loads of time on these things. Yes, that's definitely very important. That it's more about long term, that little things that are manageable for busy professionals. So. Like from your experience, like for a lot of busy professionals, a lot of people, what are the common mistakes they made toward their skin, or what are the things that they have been doing but they don't know actually it's not really good for their skin?
Do you know what? A lot of people, and I'm one of those people. I am very busy as well. I'm not very into putting lots of makeup on. I'm not very good at putting loads of makeup on, so I'd rather just have good skin so that I don't have to put makeup on. Yeah. So I could really relate to these busy women, and a lot of the women that I come across, because I do a lot of business networking, and I come across a lot of these busy women. They think that it costs a lot of money to look good. They think it takes a lot of time. Yeah. And they think that you have to buy these really expensive branded skincare products to get the results, or sometimes they would spend the money on those products and not get the results, and they just feel cheated, and they feel like they wasted lots of money. Yeah. And I'm sure there are lots of people listening to this right now who can relate to this. Yeah. And there are a lot of myths surrounding skincare. And how to keep the skin healthy and looking good. You can find all sorts of information on the internet, and sometimes that's a problem. There's too much information out there, and people don't know what's the right information for them. It's not specific to them, because everyone's skin is different. So I would say the biggest mistake that people make is that they don't really understand their skin properly. And either they're not doing something to prevent the premature aging, or they're doing the wrong thing because they don't know any better. So the first step to anything is to really get to know what skin type you are, what your skin needs, what the problems are, and then think about how to solve those problems.
Wow, that's a great insight because of the internet, we're overloaded by the information,
Yeah.
and sometimes people type into the internet like how to look after your skin, or how to do this or do that. It's loads of information, and that's very powerful that you said to understand your own skin type. So, but we probably just say that that's just a skin. We don't know what's the skin type. So how can we find out? Like, what are the solutions? Like, how can we find out our skin type?
So obviously to find out properly, it's worth seeing a skin specialist. And I know this is not always possible. And actually a lot of people think that dermatologists can help, but dermatologists tend to deal with skin disease. So, for people like you and I, we don't have any skin disease. We might get the occasional spot or pigmentation, but this kind of thing, they're not interested. And so I think traditionally, even now, I would say it's not very common to find someone who really understands the skin, how it works, and be able to give you advice without trying to sell you something. And I certainly hear this a lot from the clients that come to me. They're like, oh, I went to this clinic and this person, not even a doctor, just tried to sell me these creams and I just don't believe in it. Well, no wonder, because, they haven't taken the time to really understand. So, obviously, when I do my consultations, I would always go through all these questions, finding out what the skin type is, and I can actually advise people what skin type they have and what sort of products they should be using. I think, as a general rule of thumb, if you tend to get a lot of spots, whether it's just kind of cyclical relating to that time of the month, or if it's if you're going through hormonal changes, if you're prone to spots, then you're likely to be producing too much oil. And it doesn't mean that you always have oily skin. So this is a thing, that the skin type can actually change throughout your life. But during that particular time when you are prone to lots of spots and your skin tends to feel oily, then you're likely to have oily skin, as a generalization. But I've also come across people who thought they had acne, but actually what they had is really sensitive skin. They actually have rosacea and they have a breakout that looks like acne. So, here's a danger in giving generalized advice, because probably for most people the advice would work and they will do something and it will be better. But for some people, it will make it worse. So I'm always careful trying to kind of give generalized advice. But if you are in the London area, I'm very happy to, see anyone for a quick consultation for free, so that you can get this basic information. Otherwise, if you try to get a recommendation from a friend, of someone who actually knows what they're talking about, that is the key. To just don't randomly buy stuff if you don't feel like they understand your problem and that they know what they're talking about. Don't just randomly buy stuff that they recommend.
Yeah, I think that's very important, because a lot of time we go to the shops, we go to these, people selling these creams, selling these things, this or that. They try to make money. They try to sell you something, and then they try to give advice, and you think, yeah, maybe what they said is true. But yeah, it's very important. Perhaps in the bit we'll talk more about how people can connect with you, and then we'll include the link that if people want to find out more, and then they can get in touch. So yes, that's definitely one of the mistakes that misunderstanding for a lot of busy professionals. So from your experience, of course we say, if we are aware of these things, we have a better skin. But what if we just don't bother? People say, yeah, I'm fine. So what's your advice on these people? Say they think they're fine, they don't do anything.
I have come across a lot of those people as well. It's difficult, isn't it? It's like planning for retirement. You don't think about it until you get there, and then you realize that you don't have enough money to go into retirement. It's a similar kind of thing, because with premature age, with aging full stop, it kind of creeps up on you. And a lot of people in their 20s, 30s don't think about what they'll look like in 10 years' time. It's not, I think at the moment, the latest craze it seems to be all about the big pouty lips and the high cheekbones and having that Kardashian look. And that's something that I'm not into, that I don't really agree with. But you don't have many of those young people thinking about, okay, how can I age better? How can I make sure that I look good when I'm 30 or 40? So that's a problem. And if someone, people in their 20s generally will say, they won't care and they won't take the steps to prevent the aging. But quite often when they go into their 30s and when they start to see the lines forming, that's when they start to really take note and think, maybe I should do something now. And what I would say to people is don't leave it till it's too late. I mean, you can always make an improvement, but the treatments that I do is, I'm not a magician. I can't just erase all the lines. So if you waited until the lines are really deep, there's only so much I can do. So I'm really realistic, and I just sometimes try to scare people a little bit. Just say, look, if you don't take care of your skin now, then in 5 years, you probably will look like this, which if you took care of your skin, you'll probably get there in like 10, 15 years time. Eventually the aging process will catch up on all of us, but it's just because we're living longer and longer, we want to look the best for our age. And I think people in their 60s, 70s can still do a lot, and they're still really able and capable of doing things. So you don't want to look much older than you feel. And it's all a confidence thing as well.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. A lot of people, especially when they're young, they think they are too worried about how I look for other people, and they tend to put on lots of makeup in order to look good, but they don't tend to think, what will I look like in 20 or 30 years time. It's just like a retirement planning. I need the money now.
Yeah, you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, but they don't think about when they retire, they need to have the money as well. So that's definitely a great insight, especially for these younger people to be aware. It's important to look up the skin. It's not just about how you look now. It's more about the self-care, more about, taking care of yourself internally, like on the foundation level. And it saves money in the long term as well, I suppose.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. So as we also know now, like younger generation, we are all like working class, use a computer quite a lot. I know it can damage a lot on our skin as well. So is there anything like specific for like computer heavy users?
Well, I mean, to put things into perspective, from the phone screens, computer screens, and all these things, I mean, I think there is a certain amount of radiation that's a bit more than if you didn't use it. But I think by far the biggest risk is UV rays from the sun that's outside. So, a lot of people are overly concerned about the screen radiation, but actually they go out without sunblock on every day, and that they're doing themselves more damage. So I think just as a general rule of thumb, and this will help with the screen radiation as well, is just use a broad spectrum sunscreen, at least SPF 30, ideally a physical block. Just put it on every morning, build it into your morning skin routine. So even on grey days, I put sunscreen on, and it's even when it's not sunny, there's still UV rays in the atmosphere. If it's bright outside, there are some UV rays, and over a long period of time, that can speed up the aging process. And it's an additive effect. Over a long period of time, you'll see the results. You see the effects of the UV rays. So I would say the biggest tip is wear sunblock every day. Just get into the habit of doing it, like brushing your teeth. just put it on in the morning. It doesn't, if you find a good one, it doesn't have to be greasy or oily. It can be really nice, and you can find a tinted one as well that will give you the color at the same time.
Oh wow, that's great advice, because I don't think a lot of people think about this. It's just like we don't feel it. This is invisible. We don't feel it. We don't think it exists, but then it's actually having an impact for the long term. It's just like electricity. We don't see it, we don't feel it, but it's like it's so powerful. that's definitely great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So as you mentioned, there's like 3 steps for the flawless skin. So I'm curious about what are the 3 steps for this, especially for busy professionals.
Yep. So my 3-step approach that I take now in all of my consultations is step 1 basically involves prevention. So it's all the things that you can do to prevent premature aging, and so skincare products is a very important part of it, and obviously sunscreen is part of that. And there are other things like obviously exercise, eating healthy, having healthy diets, drinking lots of water, getting plenty of sleep, and trying to de-stress. All these things are really important as well. But I don't tend to go into that in much detail, because it's I sort of think it's sort of common sense stuff that you should know to do it. It's generally good for your health anyway. So I don't tend to cover those in detail, but what I do focus on more is the skincare side of things. And I think you should always go for a medical grade range of skincare products, because a lot of science, a lot of research have gone into these medical grade products, and they do give results, and a lot of the time they're not as expensive as people think they could be, but they can be cheaper than some of the big brands out there that don't give you any results. So choosing the right products and using the right products for your skin is really important as well. So that's step 1. So I'll go through that in the consultation, and then there's a brand that I tend to recommend to people because I love it. I know that people will get results with it. People love using it. So I kind of recommend a regime from that range. And then step 2 basically involves skin rejuvenation treatments, because with the prevention, it's all very well if you're in your 20s or early 30s, before you've had signs of aging, you go into prevention, that may be all you need. But if you're starting to show some signs of premature aging, and so I don't know if you can hear my daughter screaming in the background.
That is okay.
If you're starting to see some signs of premature aging and you haven't had any treatments before, then there are things we can do to give the skin a boost and to improve the skin first before you just go into maintenance. So by skin treatments, I mean usually I do microneedling, chemical peels, mesotherapy, mainly the first 2, and I kind of do a combination of the 2 to stimulate the skin, to rejuvenate it, peel off the old skin layers to stimulate new skin to grow so that it becomes more radiant, more glowing, more plump, tighter, less wrinkles, all the good stuff. And once you've got that, then the prevention stuff will actually just help it last longer. And that's how so initially you invest a sum of money into these treatments, but it is an investment, because then you won't need to keep spending that much money. Then the maintenance phase will be a lot cheaper. So this is how I help people to actually save money over the long term. And the 3rd step, which actually most people don't need, is the injectables. It's things like Botox and fillers. And I tend to sometimes throw it in just to help with the results of the skin rejuvenation. So for example, if someone has deep lines on the forehead and they don't like those lines, then they will get a much better treatment if they had a Botox first and then having the skin treatments. The lines will actually soften a lot more. But and then like specific areas, if they actually because of the aging process, you do lose volume in various parts of the faces, then sometimes a little bit of filler in those places actually replaces what people have lost, so it makes them look more natural, more youthful. But I don't ever use filler to try to make things much bigger than they should be. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's definitely very interesting. Yes, especially like we talk about loads of things that people don't generally think about. It's literally like a retirement. Like we don't feel the pain now, but at the time comes, you sort of regret then why I didn't take action like when I was younger. Definitely, that's been really, really helpful. We talk about prevention, we talk about 3 steps, and also most important thing is to like start early, start young,
Definitely.
and then that allows you to save money and live better for the long term.
And you know what? There's something that a lot of people don't think about is that looking after your skin is not just a vanity thing, because the skin actually is an organ. It's the largest organ in the body, and it has really important functions. And if you get things like spots and things, if you get a spot now and again, it's not a big deal. But if you kept on getting it and they don't heal properly, you could get a worse infection, or if the skin is very sensitive and it's letting the bacteria in, you could get infections in the skin, so it's not just for vanity reasons, but also looking after your skin is generally good for the health of the skin, and healthy skin tend to look better anyway. So this is how I tend to tell people, is think of it as you're looking after yourself, you're looking after your skin, you're not just doing it to be superficial.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's certainly the part of self-care. It's like your skin is a big organ for you. It's part of your body, and it's part of the self-care routine, like putting all these creams on, like a proper cream, and getting consultation, and then start, doing bit by bit, become a habit. That's definitely part of self-care, and it's good for your health. Okay, so before we get into the end, is there anything else you'd like to add? Any other messages you like the audience to hear?
I mean, I think I've already touched on this, but I'm a big believer of prevention is better than cure. So I really can't emphasize enough how important it is to try to prevent the signs of premature aging. So avoiding sun exposure and wearing sunscreen is one thing, but also if you smoke, that is something that is, about 18% of the premature aging is due to smoking. So it's another big factor. So if you do smoke, it's worth thinking about cutting down and then trying to quit. Not only is it good for your health, but also it's good for your skin in the long term as well. Another thing, that the best anti-aging ingredient is retinol. So if you want to add something into your skincare routine that will actually make a difference, then look into products that contain retinol. Ideally a medical grade one, so that it has enough concentration of the retinol to actually make a difference.
So I think we are till the end of the interview. I hope everyone get useful information and everyone find it useful. And so, as you said earlier on, the best way to find out your type of skin, and so that you can look after it better, it's to get a proper consultation, and then you do provide that for people. So, if anyone would like to find out more and want to get this consultation, what would be the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, so I have set days in a Mayfair within a private members club where I do consultations just free of charge. I meet people for a coffee. So that's where I have all my business meetings as well as and the initial consultation. So for anyone who's interested to book in to meet up with me, then there's a appointment calendar on my website, which we can put the link in the bottom later. You can just go on there and just book an appointment through there. I'll receive an email, and I'd love to meet anyone who wants to find out more.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're watching on YouTube, the link will be in the description as well. So click on the link if you're interested, and then you can book appointments with Dr. Qian. Okay, so thank you very much. It has been really helpful, and I have learned great things. Thank you so much for
You're
watching.
very welcome. That's gone really quickly.
Yeah, it does, but it has been very useful and very interesting. So for those who are watching, either watching live or watching replay, thank you very much. And yes, as said, your skin, taking care of your skin is not a vanity thing. It's more of self-care, and it's also like a retirement. You don't feel it, you don't feel the pain. It's a long-term investment, and by all means, if you want to find out more and get in consultation, do book an appointment with Dr. Qian. Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Hannah. It's great
Yeah,
speaking to you.
yeah,
See you soon.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.